We're live. Welcome. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, everybody, for watching the replay, for not catching us live. Today, we're talking about whining. It's a big one. It was suggested to me more than once, actually. People struggle with whining, and we're going to dive deep into it today, talking about why a dog would whine all the time, how to stop it, all that good stuff, and what the holistic approach, of course, which is what I take, of all the other things I'm going to do to make sure that the dog is balanced. Because at the end of the day, a dog who is chronically whining or consistently whining daily is not a balanced dog. That is an unbalanced dog. And the symptoms of an unbalanced dog is going to be whining, nervousness possibly, anxiety, overexcitement. This is symptoms of an unbalanced dog. So when I hear a dog's a chronic whiner, I know for sure that that dog is not stable throughout its day, at least during these periods. It's practicing this chronic whining. It's in a state of instability. It's not comfortable for the dog. It's not comfortable for the humans. We're going to get into it. Thanks for joining today, guys. It's Tuesday. We are getting there. It's Tuesday, but it feels like I've already worked the whole week because we work hard on Mondays. So welcome. Going to give it just a second for everyone to join. If you're new to the show, I'm Josh from Julie's Canine Academy, and I do this show around 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, taking weekends off. Okay? And today we're talking about consistent or chronic whining. Okay? As I said, this is a sign that the dog is unbalanced. It's not a balanced dog, because balanced dogs don't do this. Now, it's important to understand before we get into this, whining, just like any other expression, is a form of communication. Okay, so the dog is communicating something. But dogs can, oftentimes these dogs that have chronic whining, they get stuck into a certain space in their head, and they're literally stuck there, and you have to snap them out of it and all that, which we'll get into, and settle them down. And you can battle this anxiety, and there's things we can do to create a stable dog, and we're going to get into that. But this is the big thing. Why are these dogs unstable? Why? What's going on? What I can tell you from my experience, what I see a lot of the times when dogs come in and they're just whining all the time. They're whining when they're dropped off. They're whining at home. They're whining when they're holding still just for the next event to happen. They whine when they see a sign of something that's going to happen that they like, like the walk. Hey, you're getting your jacket on, I'm whining. But they're just always whining. Now, the thing that I believe is going on with these dogs is that they are forward thinking, okay? They're forward thinking, and then that also leaves them frustrated because they're thinking about the next thing. Not right now. These dogs actually aren't in the moment. And that's the thing, is like dogs are balanced. They're at their best when they're calm, they're collected, and they're in that moment with you. They're not projecting forward to the next event, okay? And so these dogs can get stuck, and we can just call them forward thinkers because that's what they are. They're not in the moment. You have to snap them out of this search for the next thing, or this even if they're not just super crazy about looking for the next thing to do, they can just be bored and wanting to do something else. And so they're thinking forward in that way, like, come on, human, let's do something. I don't want to just sit here. I'm complaining about being bored right now. And that's a dog who's thinking forward. So in dog whispering techniques, which I adopt, you always want a dog in the moment. That's what creates a balanced mind. So when we see this forward thinking in a situation that's not it's not healthy for the dog. Okay, this forward thinking is okay when you're playing games because the dog's anticipating what's happening next. That's fine. That's great. That's great for working. That's great for playing. But when we're just hanging out with our dogs and we want them in a balanced state, we need to know how to get that balanced state and reliable state of mind on cue. Okay, so we disagree with the forward thinking, which looks like whining and anxiety. These are the symptoms of it, but they're really thinking forward. Okay, so like a dog who's whining in the kennel wants to get out of the kennel, so they're thinking forward. They're not accepting. They haven't submitted to the fact that in this moment I'm in the kennel and I'll just relax. They keep thinking about getting out of the kennel, which is the next thing, which is again forward thinking, which causes frustration, which then leads to whining, barking, and all that stuff. Same with a dog on a leash. A dog who you ask to be in heel, they don't want to be in that moment with you. They're thinking forward. They're thinking about, but what about all this other stuff out in the world, right? Which leads to frustration, and then the frustration leads to the unreliable commands, the pulling on the leash, the lunging, the pushiness. Okay, so whining is huge. It's huge, huge, huge. Chronic whining is huge. It's a big red flag that the dog is unbalanced, and that's the core problem. So the core issue is the dog doesn't know how to live in a healthy, stable, in the moment state of mind. It's always stuck in this forward thinking anxiety cycle. It doesn't know how, or it's not being held accountable to enter this calmer state of mind where you're much more passive and you're just allowing the world to happen. You're not trying to control every little thing. You just kind of submit to the situation. So it comes down to state of mind training. That's what I would call it, and I think that's what a lot of professionals would call it for this whining stuff. But there's more to it. It's so big. I wrote so many things down. I might get a little sloppy today. There is more to it. We have dogs that have that whine. Let's say a dog who does great when it's around its own neighborhood. We get this sometimes from time to time, and I think this is interesting. A dog who only starts getting in this forward way of thinking when they're in a new location. Okay, so it doesn't have the experiences yet of knowing, hey, when we're in a new location, you still need to stay centered and calm, because I'm going to give you breaks. I will show you where you can go and explore and get into that mode, because you can go into that mode when you're allowed to. And so this is what happens: is dogs get to a new place, they're overwhelmed, we can't quite snap them out of it, or they just refuse to snap out of it. Even if you are correcting them, they refuse to snap out of that mode and to just calm down, because there's so much stuff they want to do. I see the geese over there, the people over there, the dogs over there, all these scents. There's a way that it's not necessarily state of mind training, it's environmental, I suppose. We're going to take a dog like that, and the easiest thing to get the dog to stop whining is the thing I always talk about. Let the dog go explore and bump into boundaries so that they get it out of their system. They learn that leaving your leadership and going and exploring independently and not paying attention to you leads in corrections. And so they learn to follow you mentally. That's another thing. We have to have our dogs as followers, and we have to have a way to be able to create a balanced state of mind on cue. So there's a little bit of training that goes into that. So if we could get our dogs to understand they want to follow us, okay, cool. And when you start to struggle mentally and you start to think forward, I can disagree with that, and you calm back down. Now we can go through the world once we have this, and we can actually repattern the way the dog thinks and create a balanced dog in all these situations, because we have a way to snap them out of it and bring them back to that calm, balanced state of mind. Okay, but dogs get stuck there. They create associations that send them to this space, like the knock on the door, the leash, my people, my couch, the walk. Everything sends me into this space. Now the dog just triggers into that space all day long until the dog is that space. That defines its character. That's all we know of the dog. We don't know what it looks like balanced. All right, so whining, chronic whining is a big, big, big bad thing. It's not just the dog's sad, or it's not just the dog's scared. It's the dog's got some serious fucking issues if it's got chronic whining. It's, as a trainer, if you're hearing that it's whining all the time and it's not stopping, you're thinking one of two things. Okay, this could be a really easy fix, because it could be a dog that's just never been told not to, and it's not deeply rooted, and you can disagree with it and it goes away. Or you have rehab on your hands. And most of the time, there's elements of rehab even with the easy ones, because this whining thing is bad. It's bad. Okay, there's a time and a place for a dog to whine. If a dog is whining because hey, I need to go to the bathroom, I can't hold it. Yeah, that's normal, different, right? Or a little whine in anticipation because they see something they want, like ooh, I see the food, I want it. But then you're able to say, relax, and you see the dog relax. That's fine. That's normal. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just know it's quite something. These dogs get very worked up, and it's to the point where they're so excited it hurts. Like everything in them is just it's not good, and they're unreliable. You can't even get them to do anything in that state. If you tell them to down, they might down, but their mind's just all over the place. And we see it a lot with dogs on the walk, because here's the thing about the walk and whining, and it is related, I think, because I think everything's related. If you can have that perfect walk with your dog, if you can get this dog to respect you to the point and trust you to the point where you can go through the world, they stay and heal with like not pushing it, they're respectful, you're not having problems anywhere in any other area. More than likely, you're not having problems in any other area, because that is the hardest thing to do, and that proves you as a really good leader to this dog. If you can take it through the world, It can be be in a structured heel without complaining and go through all sorts of different environments without having that state of mind struggle, without forward thinking, just trusting you and respecting you. You can do anything with your dog. That is the thing that you need to be able to do, right? It is serious. Our dog's out there stressed out, barking at other dogs and ruling the roost out there. Yeah, there's a reason why you're struggling everywhere. It's because if you can't get the walk, then you're not going to get 100% follower from your dog. You're just not. And you'll live with a dog who might listen to you 50% of the time, and you'll be okay with that. But, if you master that walk and the respect and those types of moments, and then a few key moments throughout your day at home, then you're going to have control over your dog, okay? So the chronic whining and stuff, unfortunately, by the time I see a dog, it's usually so reinforced that the dog doesn't even know that it's whining anymore. It doesn't even know that it's doing it. It's like, since it was young, it was whining here and there, but it always ever just got pat or praise. It's okay. So that's reinforcing. Nothing to snap it out of it, and nothing aversive tied to consistent and chronic whining, right? Like if I start to have an episode, right, where I start whining and then I get really worked up, nobody snaps them out of it. Like another dog, dogs will correct each other for doing that stuff. Instability gets corrected within a dog pack, all right? Because they can't have unstable dogs around them consistently because they rely on each other, so they correct that stuff. So humans don't correct it, they nurture it, and so they try to say, it's okay. What they're trying to say to the dog is, everything's okay, nothing's going to hurt you. But what the dog sees is that the human is okay with me in this state because they're petting me and they're showing me soft energy. And so the dog thinks it's okay. You're just reinforcing that state of mind. And you do it for years or 6 months or whatever, but years usually. And that's where you get the dog now needs rehab. But what you want to do is you want to disagree. And that goes against what anybody thinks you should do, right? Like the dog's whining. So the human automatically thinks whine means pain or sad, the uneducated brain, like the Disney movie kind of people, right? They think that whining means the dog's either injured or sad. And these are true. A dog will whine when it's injured or sad. But what we see, we don't see dogs who are injured or sad. That's never the case. It's always the dog's complaining about their current situation, or they're just really messed up in the head and they don't even know why they're whining anymore. They're not comfortable in their own skin. So again, forward thinking though, these dogs are oftentimes they're unsettled. They can't just settle in the moment. So you see how there's so many things. This bringing up whining to me just opens up everything. We can then branch off and talk about everything, because if a dog's chronically whining, the core issue is it's not balanced. And the goal is to have a balanced, well-trained companion. So, you can have a well-trained companion who's not balanced. And therefore the training just doesn't feel right. And trying to do more training, like command training, to try to fix that state of mind issue is not going to work. It doesn't work. Now here's the thing. God, there's so much to cover. Relationship matters too. Okay, so you got environmental triggers where a dog might trigger back to this stressful state of mind by going back to its own living room after a board and train. Right now I'm in this living room where this is the state of mind I enter when I'm in this living room. So they go back to it. Or this is the state of mind I enter while I'm in my neighborhood. So they go back to it. This is how associations work. Now you have to battle that. So the dog goes to trigger, but now you have the skill to say, I see that state of mind leaving, the calm state of mind, entering the unhealthy state of mind. I'm going to say no, I'm going to correct. I'm going to create the calm state of mind. And beyond that, beyond that for the next few weeks to a few months, so the dog changes its association. Okay, the new expectation is this. You're going to show them, and they're going to have to try not to trigger to the old association until the old association is now the new expectation. And then you got a dog who's healed in there. But here's where it gets tricky. This is why people struggle with doing this. Because what if you, as a person, you and whoever else lives in that house, are also associated with the unhealthy state of mind? Yay! Now we got a fucking mess. Right? Because just the sight of the human or any other human that lived there, or any other animal that lived there, sends me, because I lived in this state every time I seen them, into this association. That's all it is. A dog just sees something and goes, boom, this is the state of mind to deal with this situation. especially dogs who are working breeds, because they're very reactive. They don't have time to sit and think when they're working. They have to learn how to react and just react all day, especially like shepherds. That's why they're some of the worst, because the reactive dogs, they're working dogs. You teach them what to do, now they just react and they do. When they see the cues and they hear the cues, they just react. They don't have time to think. So you got to be careful in that raising process. If your dog gets that association to your house, to you, to your neighborhood, it's like, I know dogs that never get over that fully if you go a couple years. Yeah, you go a couple years, it's like they're always going to kind of struggle just a little bit, unless I started living in your living room with you, you know. So then you get a chronic whiner, because this is the state of mind I've lived in, this forward-thinking state of mind for years in this living room with this person. Now it makes it easier if the person that's in this environment with them, say it's me, somebody who they don't have a past experience with, I can get them to change in these environments relatively quick through a couple, a week or whatever if I live there. But the owner has to battle their own association, which means they have to have conversations where it's like, I'm disagreeing with you and now I'm following through for this situation. And then later on in the day, you did something, so I'm disagreeing and I'm following through. The dog starts to change the way it views the owner and starts to see it more as an authority figure. Now it has the type of clout it needs to disagree with it through the house and through the neighborhood, and slowly start to change it. But like I said, if you get a breed like a shepherd or some of these really kind of the minds work like this. I get an association, that's how I behave forever to this thing. Then and you do it during the whole adolescence, it can be, and you go move back to the same house, the same people, it's quite something. It's quite amazing how the brain works, right? The dog can be balanced and then see this one particular individual and go, bink, right back to a whole old mentality, just trigger right into it. And now it's got to fight the new expectation versus the old association. And that's where you see the battle in the dog's mind. And that's the rehab work. And that is the work. As far as I'm concerned about living with a dog, if you want that full, you want all the good stuff, the 100% follower stuff, this is the stuff you need to be doing. It's not about the down, the sit, the recall. I mean, that stuff's great, and I love it, and it helps with this process, but the dog's mind is what needs to be focused on, and that's not what America usually thinks of when they think of getting their dog trained. They think, let's get it, the commands, so whenever we have a bad, like, you know how people do it, like the dog's jumping, so you try to tell it to sit. It's like, no, that's the wrong way of thinking. You correct the jumping. That's how you should be thinking. If the dog jumps, just correct it for jumping, and it won't jump, right? We're trying to like talk to it a lot, okay? So here, I don't want to get off. There's so much here. So how do we go about even like getting a dog over this stuff when they're in this chronic whining? One of the things is the environmental thing, where the dog doesn't want to follow you because you're in a new environment. They want to go do their own thing. We do what we call bumping into boundaries, which is where I have a backpack on, I have a long line on, it's a 30-foot long line, it's on the dog, and we get into the new environment, and the dog goes. They just go and do whatever they're going to do. There's rules that the dog is going to find out, but it doesn't want to listen to me, so I'm not going to beg it. This is the best way to do it. I'm not going to say, hey, look at me, listen to me, I want to explain things to you. The dog doesn't give a shit, so I'm not going to waste my time. So this is called bumping into the boundaries. If you can imagine, I'm a little dot on the paper, and then out here's the dog at the end of the long line, and he has a radius all the way around me before he hits the end of that leash, right? Here's what's going to happen. I'm going in my own direction, right? I mean, I'm letting the dog, I'm going to get somewhere where the dog can be free safely. You know what I mean? So I'm going to let the dog start walking out in front of me, and then I'm going to head slightly in a different direction. The dog's not going to know this because the dog's not paying attention. However, we are attached by a thing called a leash or a long line. As soon as that, I feel his weight on the backpack or on the long line, that means he got snagged. That means he wasn't paying attention, not following me. He's too busy doing his own thing. Correction on the e-collar. And that's it for now for this stage. And then he comes back to me, and it's not a recall or anything, but I'm like, hey, buddy, how's it going? Praising him while he's close. Good boy, good boy. We're heading in this other direction now. He goes off and does his own thing. I sneak away. I'm always trying to sneak away. And as I'm sneaking away, the dog's not paying attention. We hit the end of the long line. Correction. Now what happens after a couple of these is the dog's paying attention to you. They're saying, okay, we're attached, and if he gets too far away from me, this thing tightens, and then there's a correction. So if I keep my eye on him a little bit, then then, I can watch where he's going and I can kind of do my own thing, but follow him enough. And that gets rewarded. The dog notices I interact with it more when it's in that mentality. And so I'm starting to shape the way the dog behaves out here. Hey, we're a pack out here. I'm not saying you can't have free time, but what I'm saying is that you have to follow me. And there's real world consequences if you don't. Because the thing is, there is real world consequences if you don't. If I wasn't training you and I just walked away and left you, you could get hit by a car. You could get into a dog fight. I'm simulating these things with these e-collar corrections. I'm saying, nope, you're not following enough. You're at the end of the boundary. I have to simulate it with a correction. Otherwise, the dog's not going to give a fuck. Why would he? Why? He's not just going to do it because I ask him to, unless I sit there with a piece of steak, and that's not the right conversation, right? So now the dogs understand there is somebody they can follow. So I'm not putting the dog in heel yet. Even the dog might know heel, but I'm not using it yet. And if the dog knows heel, you might see it try it a few times. It might put itself in heel a few times, and I'll say, good boy, but break, go. And now the dog might be hanging around me, which they are usually. Now what I do is I shorten the leash. I don't give them 20 feet anymore. I give them, or however long it is, I shorten it a bit, and I start expecting them to be a little closer. Because I go for the big bad behaviors first, like a dog running at something. And then slowly, they're not doing that anymore, so we get the leash a little shorter. So it's probably like, I don't know, I probably have it anywhere between 5 and 7 feet at this point, maybe 10 feet. And the dog's going out. So maybe it's 10 feet. And now I'm doing the same thing, and the dog's noticing it's a shorter, like he can't get that far away. So if he stops and sniffs something and I keep walking, he doesn't have as long anymore before it hits the end of the leash. So now he's starting and this is happening back to back, same session. Now he's starting to follow me even closer, and he's getting more interaction from me for doing that. Good boy, we're having a good time. I'm going to encourage you to break again, though. Like, go on out. And the timing's important on this. I'm not giving the dog a very consistent timing. It's not like I'm correcting every 30 seconds. I'm sorry, or looking for that correction every 30 seconds. I'm keeping it kind of unpredictable, but if the dog does something inappropriate, like start eating goose poop or something, I'm going to sneak away quicker and get that correction in as well. And the dog will turn around after the correction and be like, oh, yeah, I wasn't paying attention because of this goose poop. Sorry, I need to pay attention to you more than the environment to a degree. And then we get a dog who's hanging around us even closer. And that brings us to the next step, which is all in the same session. Now I want to teach this dog how to travel through the world with me because he's practically doing it. Now he's like, okay, I need to there's still going to be a layer of stress if I don't do this next thing. Now I need to get rid of a layer of stress because the dog's excited. But it's less. It's already significantly less because we already took off the layer of stress where it's like, what if I went everywhere? That's gone now. The dog's kind of happy with hanging out with us. It's gone down a lot. But I know that I don't want this dog I want to give him a full picture of when he can go out, though, because I know you do want to go out. I want you to know you can go out. I just want to let you know when you can go out. So now I'll go to a part like a trail. The first one was probably done in a field, right? So I had a lot of moving area. Then I'll move up to the trail, which is in the same location for us, luckily, and I'll start to ask the dog to walk with me. And now I will have it walk a little bit and heel and correct like position and stuff. Once we're walking good for a little while, and this isn't like I'm not trying to go after distractions right now. This is all done with very minimal. It's a distraction enough being in a new environment. I'm not trying to find dogs. Definitely not during this phase. That's later on. This is the first time off property usually. So now I'm asking it to heel with me, and we get a little fuss, but maybe not really, because he's already got that out of his system. And then the dog ends up walking nicely for a little while. After it walks nicely for 30 seconds to a minute, I stop. I'm not walking too much with this dog. I stop. I tell it to sit. The dog's wondering what's going on. I say stay. I take a couple feet in front of them. I look around, make sure everything's good. Get eye contact. Get that eye contact. Break. And the dog's like, break? Wait, I can go out? And it's like, yeah, go out. Now you can go out and just with the rules that I just taught you, though. The one that I just taught you, don't go too far and this kind of. Now I can start telling you to go sniff this thing specifically. Hey, why don't you go check this area out right here? That looks cool. And they enjoy themselves. They sniff it, and then they get done, and then they look at you, and then you say, okay, heel, and then it's back to walking on the trail. Go down a little further this time, making sure the mind's right still, making sure this is all good. We're not in heavy distractions. We've already done our homework, and we didn't put ourselves in a spot that's heavy distractions. I went to a spot that has very minimal people at this point, or dogs. Probably none. Ideally. Then we're walking, we're in the groove, we're doing good. Stop, sit, same thing. stay while I walk out a little bit. It's important to do that stay and walk out a little bit because that proofs the sit every time you do that. You might as well add it in there, right? And then get the eye contact. The dog looks at you. The dog's probably looking at you quite a bit at this point. You're probably realizing that every time you stop and look at the dog, they're right up at you more than the environment, because they know that if you release them and tell them they can go out, you're not going to try to do the sneak away game and all this. It's just you're literally telling them, go ahead. And they have permission to, so they're waiting for you now. They're waiting for you. And so then you release them, break. And then you teach them, hey, this is how we get through the world. We travel in structure. And here's the rules, okay? Then we're going to stop, and I'm going to give you a spot where you can stretch your legs and do the dog stuff. And then I'm going to call you back, and we're going to structurally walk again to the next place. And that's how we get through the world. Rather than, I'm out of the car, so I'm just going to be thinking about the world all the time. This stuff, this way works. It works for me. And so that's the first outing. Off property. They've already learned the walk on property. They've learned some of this stuff on property. This is the first one off property, new location. I build on that. So the next ones that I go out with the dog, I'm going to build on that. I might start experimenting with, like, we get out of the car and we do a heel straight from the car to a place that's not too far away, sit, and then potty, and then have some free time, and then back to the heel. So the dog's like more willing to comply with you because there is something in it for them, but it's under your control. And the cool thing is it's a win-win, because we do want to see our dogs have a good time. We do want to release our dogs. We do want them to we do want to play ball with them. We want to do all these things, and we should do all these things. We just need the dog to know that the in-between time when we're not playing ball and when I'm not giving you all this time, I just need you in that calm, balanced, relaxed state of mind. And just stay there until I say, break, go play, and then you can feel free to enter other spaces, but with capped intensity. Though we don't let them get too intense, so they know, like, okay, there's certain things I can't do. I can't jump on you, but I can do this, this, and this. I can run around. I can do this. So you're just letting them know what's okay and what's not. And so this is a game changer for your dog whining. It really is. And if you have a day, like if I bring a dog out a week later and they've been doing great, but for some reason they're struggling with this one particular area, then I'm going to walk through it and let them leave my leadership without permission and get corrected, and they end up back in heel, even without you telling them to heel. And I walk by the thing a few times until there's no, to the state of mind is how I want it to be. There's no negative influence. And that's just me reinforcing it again. Like every opportunity you get, every time your dog switches and goes into this healthy state of mind, that is your opportunity to work on it. You don't really get an opportunity to work on it unless they're in the situation messing up. At that time, you got to go through it. So the next month or two, you just look for that ritual, for that process. You look to see if your dog's going to struggle with something, and you go ahead and deal with it. And then you get to the point where you expect them to do heavy and tight heels through the city and through the stores and all this stuff with no breaks. And then when we get out by the car, you can have a break and stuff like this. So you're slowly adding in that structure. But we went after the big bad behaviors first. We let them run away. We let them go and try this and try that and try that. It all landed in corrections that landed in the dog's head. Because I wasn't paying attention, my human now ended up way over there because I wasn't paying attention. That's us sneaking away purposely. But to the dog, it's like if I don't pay attention and I interact with the environment too much, my human ends up far away, and then there's a correction, right? So I need to stay within the bubble of my human. And we can always tell our dog how far we want him to be away from us too. You can teach all this stuff. It's wonderful. So now your dog has some idea what to do in a new environment with you. Okay, this is a new place, but I've been to a few and I know that, and I'm generalizing that the process is about the same. It's the same. I'm going to want to go do things, but if I'm patient and I don't break the rules, there'll be no corrections, and eventually I'll be able to do my dog stuff, and have a good time. So it's balanced. All right, I think I got a pretty good amount out. However, I could go on. This topic is so important and misunderstood. It's probably one of the most misunderstood things ever, a dog whining, other than probably, dog aggression is probably misunderstood pretty good up there too. Let me see what we got for comments. Thank you for joining. It's Tuesday. I made it through that. I got morning brain, but I made it. I made it through it. And every morning, 8 a.m., around about, as you can see, I was a little late today. Monday through Friday, we're going to keep doing these things, guys. So if you have any comments or questions, let me know now, or leave them in the comments after this thing ends on the replay, and I will try to get to your comments and questions. And also, if you have any suggestions of future topics, you could leave them there too, okay? So let's go through and see what we got for comments Well, I kind of take it down a notch here, okay? All right. Reader J says, Jax was a whiner when he came to you all. So true. He was unable to listen to me before training because he was all over the place. He was a brat. Yeah, that's a very typical scenario around here, the brat. They can't settle. And I want to go back to that forward thinking thing because I think that's very important. Trainers will know what I'm talking about. Okay, balanced behavior dog training says, absolutely love this concept. The best feeling when the dog starts tuning out the environment and tuning into the handler's guidance. One of my favorite switches is to see flip in a dog. Me too. And it's the dog showing you respect and trust, and you can turn around and the way that I do it, if I turn around and praise the dog and interact with it like that, they just feel so much better. A little pat on the head, and they just want to stick by you. Okay, you're my guy, you're my guidance, okay? So it's a really great feeling. It's a really great feeling. And it works. Thank you. Almost Heaven Canine says same. Mark says genius. Thank you, Mark. This stuff works. I'm still learning about it every day. It's not like this is going to be the end all be all. This is just where we are today. Where we are in a year from now, hopefully, is even better, and we keep learning and keep getting better. But remember, when dogs are anxious and whining, they're often forward thinking, right? And so, and then they'll get frustrated, and then all the symptoms will come out, right? Like dogs licking on themselves, drooling, digging, trying to get out of the kennel or whatever they're doing, just walking around, pacing. Pacing to me is silent whining. When a dog's just fucking pacing back and forth, they're in their own head. They're thinking too much. If you slow the body down, you'll slow the mind down. You tell them to go lay down, the mind will start to. You tell them to go lay down, they might start whining because they're pacing, and if they're not pacing, they're whining. Their mind's just going. They need to be snapped out of that cycle. You need to learn how to identify when a dog's leaving a balanced state and starting to go into these unhealthy states. Just correct it, and bring them back to a balanced state, and then let them be. You don't even have to put them in a command. This stuff really does work. Okay, guys? So if you don't know about state of mind training, I'd look into it. It's really great. It's really great stuff. That was chronic whining. We covered it. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Not sure what I'm going to cover yet. This was a topic that I could have taken a whole week on. So I try to jam a lot of stuff in there. I hope it made sense. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.